Did you know Sean Diddy Combs once reached billionaire status?
Honoring Sean Diddy Combs!
Only to now face lawsuits, raids, and a public downfall that's unraveling everything? In this video, we'll dive deep into Diddy's explosive rise from intern to icon.
Billionaire.
And the dark secrets, lawsuits, and scandals that threaten to erase his legacy. Stay until the end.
Is a monster.
What you hear in the final chapter might shock you most.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires.
What do you think ruins more empires? Greed, fame, or skeletons finally walking out of the closet? Drop your answer below, and let's unpack the legend, the mogul, the mess.
Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul.
He wasn't born into privilege, he was born into pain. Sean John Combs came into the world in Harlem in 1969, in an era when the crack epidemic was tightening its grip on black communities. His father, Melvin Combs, was a known associate of Frank Lucas, the same Harlem drug lord made famous by American Gangster. When Melvin was shot dead in his car at age 33, baby Sean was only 2.
After his father was murdered, he went to an all-boys Catholic school and then went off to Howard University. And that's when he started throwing these parties. And Diddy was always the life of the party.
That kind of loss doesn't fade. It gets embedded in your DNA. Diddy later said that moment put a battery in his back.
He was killed when I was 3 years old. I don't have a lot of memories of my father. They say, you can't miss something you never had. So.
He wasn't just hustling for himself. He was chasing a version of power that had once been stolen from him. The streets taught him that money equals freedom, and fame means immunity. In college, most students aim for a degree. Sean was already building an empire. When enrolled at Howard University, he worked 3 unpaid internships simultaneously. But the one that changed his life was Uptown Records. That's where he transformed from a nobody to the industry's most feared young executive. He didn't sleep, literally. He was the first one in, last one out, orchestrating groundbreaking parties, styling music videos, and injecting hip-hop with raw cinematic swagger. Uptown's founder, Andre Harrell, eventually fired him in 1993, saying Diddy had gotten too big, too fast. Bad Boy wasn't just a record label, it was a cultural earthquake. Diddy's first major signing was a Brooklyn street poet with a hypnotic flow, Christopher Wallace, better known as the Notorious B.I.G. Their chemistry was instant. With Biggie's rhymes and Diddy's vision, they crafted anthems that defined a generation: Juicy, Big Papa, and Hypnotize. But it wasn't all platinum plaques. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry erupted, with Diddy and Biggie on one side, Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur on the other. Diddy's empire was thriving, but the streets were boiling. By the late 90s, Diddy was everywhere. He didn't just shape the culture, he was the culture. His shiny suits, champagne-fueled parties, and crossover success made him a household name. From launching Sean John clothing to producing MTV's Making the Band, he mastered the art of turning influence into income. But fame has a flip side. Diddy was sued by former artists for exploitation, criticized for shady contracts, and accused of prioritizing image over artistry. His lavish lifestyle began to raise eyebrows. Jets, yachts, 7-figure shopping sprees. December 27, 1999. Club New York, Manhattan. A night of glamour ended in gunfire. Diddy, then dating superstar Jennifer Lopez, was involved in a shooting that left 3 people injured. The chaos that followed was tabloid gold: arrests, paparazzi, and a courtroom circus. Though Diddy was eventually acquitted of all charges, his image took a devastating blow. His protege, rapper Shine, was convicted and sentenced to 10 years. Some insiders claimed Diddy threw Shine under the bus to save himself. After the nightclub scandal, most would have laid low. Not Diddy. Instead, he rebranded himself. The name Puff Daddy was retired. Say hello to just Diddy. It was more than a nickname switch, it was a calculated reinvention. With Biggie gone and Bad Boy cooling off, Diddy pivoted into lifestyle mogul status. He launched the Sean John clothing line, which earned him a CFDA award.
A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice.
He's dealt with every challenge in his life, and he's not guilty. He's innocent of these charges.
He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving in a different lane. He turned tragedy into currency and pain into power moves. In the early 2000s, Diddy flipped the script again, this time on TV. He became the face of MTV's Making the Band, where he played the perfectionist, ego-driven boss who pushed artists past their limits. Viewers were hooked. His phrases like "walk to Brooklyn for cheesecake" became meme-worthy pop culture. But behind the laughs were real consequences. Several cast members later claimed psychological manipulation, poor contracts, and broken promises. It was TV gold for Diddy, but a nightmare for some aspiring artists. Then came the unraveling. As the 2020s rolled in, so did the lawsuits, and they weren't about contracts or royalties. They were darker. Multiple women filed civil suits accusing Diddy of sexual assault, abuse, and trafficking.
Talking about as victim number one is Cassie Ventura. So other victims haven't been named in the indictment itself. It could be possibly because when it comes to sexual assault cases, usually you do not mention their name. You keep them under a pseudonym.
One lawsuit, filed by Cassie Ventura, his longtime ex-girlfriend, alleged a decade of manipulation, physical violence, and forced encounters. It was shocking. Even more shocking, the lawsuit was settled within 24 hours of being filed. To many, that looked like damage control, not innocence.
At one point, Diddy had his hands on everyone's career. It seemed like every artist that was on the chart at one point.
Other suits followed. Diddy's name began disappearing from events, partnerships, and even online platforms. The past wasn't just catching up, it was bulldozing his legacy. Then came the hammer. In March 2024, Homeland Security raided two of Diddy's homes, one in Miami, the other in Los Angeles. Helicopters, armed agents, and viral footage of his sons being detained on camera sent shockwaves across the internet. The raids were part of a federal investigation involving alleged sex trafficking.
As these parties went on, people started noticing some allegedly illegal conduct or nefarious conduct that was
drug use, and other criminal activity tied to Diddy's inner circle. The headlines read like a script from a Netflix crime series, but this was real life. Brand deals collapsed overnight. For decades, Diddy was hip-hop royalty. But after the lawsuits and federal heat, the silence from the industry was deafening. His name was scrubbed from events like the Grammys and BET Awards. Collaborators, many of whom once praised him publicly, stayed quiet. Ciroc's parent company, Diageo, severed ties, citing breach of contract. He went from trendsetter to liability. Even streaming platforms began quietly limiting his exposure. A mogul once hailed as a pioneer was now being shunned in real time. In an industry built on loyalty, nothing moves faster than self-preservation. There were multiple lawsuits. One changed everything.
I came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false.
Cassie's. Her suit wasn't just shocking, it was graphic and specific. It alleged over a decade of abuse, surveillance, and control. The fact that she'd been by his side in public, smiling and silent, made the claims even more haunting. Diddy's immediate settlement was a red flag to many. If the accusations were false, why settle that fast? And if true, how deep did it really go? Her story opened the floodgates. other women soon came forward. Sometimes it takes one brave voice to crack an empire wide open. Legacy rewritten. The mogul who couldn't outrun the mirror. Diddy's story was once the blueprint for success. A poor black kid from Harlem who built an empire with hustle, charisma, and unmatched work ethic. He gave us anthems, fashion trends, liquor brands, and unforgettable TV. He shaped culture. But the same ambition that made him rich may have made him reckless. The same drive that inspired millions may have driven him into darkness. Now, with lawsuits, raids, and silence closing in, the question isn't whether he'll fall, it's how far. And when history tells his story, will it say Sean Combs was a visionary who lost control, or a predator hiding behind power? Because in the end, the empire you build is only as strong as the truth you bury.